there, gang. So this is a move that has been kind of unofficially dubbed stirring the pot, which is kind of funny because when I was first taught this move, it didn't really have a name. And, you know, sadly, it's been one of those things that my recollection of who originally taught this move to me has been kind of lost with time. I want to say it was Teddy like a year and a half ago, but the truth of the matter is that I have been shown this move now by so many different people. I feel like it just kind of is percolating the poi pop culture in a lot of ways. And there's a good reason for it, namely that this turns out to be something that you could almost think of as being like a basic unit of poi tangles in a lot of respects. You can get to almost any tangle out of this. And, of course, when I talk about tangles, I'm talking about the classification of poi tricks wherein the tethers are either twisted around or in touch with each other throughout most or all of the move. For example, like air wraps and hyperloops and butterflaps. Woo! Pardon me. All fit this category, yeah? So let's first break down how to do this, and then we'll talk a little bit about why it's such an important move. To start with, we're going to have our left hand working in a horizontal isolation, and in a horizontal plane, rather. And as I'm looking down on my left hand, I'm seeing the poi turn around in a counterclockwise direction. I'm going to try doing an isolation with my right hand vertically, and it's going to look as though it is going in a clockwise direction. Now, it's important to note that as I'm performing this isolation, it doesn't have to be like a hardcore perfect isolation, just as long as your hand is moving at least a little bit. And you're going to want to try doing these at the same time in such a way that it feels like they're working in together time. That is, your left hand is pushing away from you at the same time that your right hand is pushing up, right? Now, in order to get into this, you're going to have to really realize what the hand position needs to be for this, which is that your right hand is going to be kind of hiding out behind your left hand. That is, your left hand is always going to be further away from your body than your right hand is. So one of the ways that we can get into this actually is I can start off by turning the poi in my right hand clockwise, and I can reach underneath. Imagine there's this hole of negative space right here between my hand and the tether, and I'm going to try and reach the poi in there and touch the tether of the poi in my left hand. And once that happens, it's the left hand's job to begin that isolation motion. Yeah? So I reach in and kind of touch it and start that isolation movement going. Now, you'll note that as I'm doing this, my hands are kind of pushing in and out away from me. And they're doing it in such a way that that right hand stays behind the left hand the entire time. It's very, very, very important to keeping this going. Now, another approach that you could use to do this would be to, say, start with the left hand in its horizontal isolation, going around counterclockwise, and see if you can get the right hand to kind of reach behind it and capture the tether. Yeah? Either approach is totally fine. A couple things to keep in mind that were difficult for me as I was working my way through this. Number one is to really focus on making sure that the poi in your left hand is always in a pendulum kind of state. That is, the poi head can never go above your hands. Likewise, the poi in your right hand is never going to get behind your right hand, i.e. like behind your back or in kind of an inside place like this. The reason for that being that if you were to do that, you would add what we call a degree of twist to this tangle, and that would, quite frankly, result in it becoming a very different move. But it might be a move that you're trying to get to. So yeah, in perfecting this move, you really want to make sure that you're getting momentum behind both of the poi and making sure that left hand poi stays horizontal below the hand and right hand poi stays vertical in front of the hand, but still in front of the left hand. It's a lot to think about, I know. So why in God's name is this such an important move? Well, because depending upon how we shift the orientation of the planes, it could turn into a lot of different things. For example, if I allow the left hand plane to go into a more vertical place, all of a sudden we're playing around with a butterflap. That is a butterfly-based tangle where we don't have a complete degree of twist. You can see this in operation kind of at any point in stirring the pot. If you were to, say, do what we would consider to be the diagnostic of whether it's a tangle or not, and stop the poi and see if you can pull them apart. If you can't pull them apart, it is a tangle, and you have at least 1 degree of twist. If you can pull them apart, like so, there's no degree of twist. When the tethers are touching and there's no degree of twist, I really like the kind of label that Arashi has placed on this kind of move and calling it a kiss, where the two tethers are in touch with each other, but they're not necessarily wrapped around each other, right? Stirring the pot is interesting because there are points in it where you're in a kiss, and there's points in it where you could say that you do have a degree of twist going on. It kind of oscillates back and forth between the two of them. Now, in bringing both of the tethers vertically, again, there winds up being 1 point where you have a degree of twist, and 1 point where you don't. You can see the same diagnostic working in, say, something like a Lovelace, where if you pull your hands apart, there's no tangle, as opposed to a barrel roll, where if you pull your hands apart, the poi are tangled together, right? So if, for example, you did want to get into a place where you had a full-on tangle going from here, you could take it from the position of saying, okay, when that left-hand poi is going around to that point furthest away from me, I'm going to bring it up, whoops, I'm going to bring it up in between my arms. This will happen, I swear. Up in between my arms, and ta-da, I have a full-on tangle, right? And of course, to get back out of it, all you have to do is get that right-hand poi to follow it through. And then you can actually just return to stirring the pot if you so choose. Like that. And voila, right back where we started. You can also think of this as being kind of like a middle point if you were to try doing, say, like a butterfloop through it, which I just learned how to do today, so it might be a little sketchy, but yeah. That middle point of it is essentially what the middle point of it is essentially something like a butterflap. So as you're going from one side to the other, it'll automatically untangle itself. So yeah, this is really, really useful. Get this down and it'll open up the doors to a lot of other things that are very similar to it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and have yourselves a great week. Peace. This video was made possible thanks to the kind contributions of these folks right here. In addition, special thanks to Sean, Prisna, Kiro, as well as Andrew Hammond and Ben Reynolds. Thank you guys so much for making these videos possible. If you've enjoyed these videos or learned anything from them, please consider making a contribution at drexfactory.com/support. Help me to keep on making these videos that you love. Thanks.